If charging what you're worth feels heavier than it should, I want to start by saying this clearly. There is no such thing as charging what you're worth. And if that phrase has been creating pressure, guilt, or self-doubt, this episode is for you. Because this is not a pricing problem. It's an identity conversation that's being framed in the wrong way, and it's keeping you stuck. Hey, I'm Candy Motzek. I'm the host of She Coaches Coaches. Welcome to this episode. Today, we're going to talk about pricing. Pricing is one of those emotionally loaded topics in business for every coach. People talk about confidence. They talk about mindset, strategy, numbers. But what I've noticed is that pricing struggles rarely come down to tactics alone. They come down to how deeply tangled pricing has been with identity. And the phrase of charge what you're worth is a perfect example of that entanglement. Because as a human, your intelligence, your lived experience, your empathy, your skills, and your insight, you are worth far more than you could ever charge. Your worth is not negotiable, and it's never measurable, and it doesn't fluctuate with your pricing. Did you hear me? Your worth as a human does not fluctuate with your pricing that you charge as a coach. So today, let's untangle some of this stuff that gets knotted up very early on for a lot of coaches. Why does charging what you're worth, that phrase alone, why does it create so much pressure? When we hear that, what people are often hearing behind the words is this: if somebody says no, they are rejecting me. If they hesitate to pay me my rate, then my value is in question. If somebody doesn't understand my rate, well, then I need to explain myself much better and a lot and justify it. And if they don't buy, if they say no to me, then maybe I'm asking too much and I should charge less. That's not business. That is self-worth being put on the negotiating table. And no amount of mindset work is going to make this feel clean and solid. Your worth is not the thing being sold. So what are you actually charging for? Well, as a professional, let's start with this. You are not charging for your humanity. You are charging a fee for your expertise and your experience, the judgment you exercise, your presence, your ability to guide someone through a specific process and outcome, the value of the goal to the client, and the value of the transformation that you're helping them get. That fee is an investment decision. It is not a moral one. It's not a referendum on your value as a person. It's also never a measure of how good you are, your generosity, or how much you care. When pricing feels heavy, it's often because these things have gotten stuck together. Human worth and professional fees somehow have been stuck together in our heads. And guess what? They are not the same. Consider any role that you have ever had, every job that you've ever had. It's got a salary or an hourly rate, right? Maybe you were a software engineer or a teacher or a healthcare professional. Each of those careers has a salary range by employer. Maybe it's $50,000 a year or $100,000 or $250,000 a year. That's what the job pays. When you do the job, you get that paycheck. You're not going to say, oh no, my value as an individual won't let me deposit that money into my bank account. Because in that situation, you're never equating your professional role with your value as a human. So now it's time to separate those two in your coaching practice too. This identity shift is what you need. Charging a clean, grounded fee asks something very specific of you. It asks you to stop tying your sense of legitimacy to approval, to understanding, or the outcomes, to gratitude, or to being liked. This is not a mindset tweak. This is an identity transition. Many coaches start out in this place where they are a helpful person. That is their identity. I'm a helpful person. And they care deeply. They over deliver. They're very generous. They want their clients to feel supported, relieved, and grateful. And listen, there is nothing wrong with that. But at some point, a sustainable pricing requires a shift. And you're going to shift from a helpful person to a paid professional. So why does this shift feel so uncomfortable? Because paid professional in our brain, sometimes we think it sounds cold or transactional, but it doesn't. It means something far more solid and quiet. It means not proving your value in real time, not explaining yourself excessively, not making sure everybody feels comfortable before you charge that rate. And that's the thing that can make you feel nervous because it often requires letting go of patterns that once kept you safe. Patterns like over preparing or people pleasing or discounting or softening your language so nobody feels pushed. Those patterns aren't wrong. You created those patterns at a time that they supported you, but now it can be time for you to let them go. They just don't serve your level of authority that you're stepping into anymore. So what I've seen consistently is this. People don't undercharge because they lack skill. They undercharge because they haven't fully separated who they are from what they charge. So they're still asking pricing to do the emotional work of feeling reassured or validated or understood. And once this separation can be made, then something changes, not just the number. It's the posture, the attitude. Your pricing conversations become far calmer and cleaner, and you feel less defensive because not everybody is going to suddenly say yes to you because you no longer have to make this feel so personal. I remember when I was a new coach starting out, I was eager to get clients. I didn't have any clients and I was starting my training program and oh boy, this was a big thing. And so I started out charging $50 a session. And I felt like that was a stretch. Now, I had come off being a senior corporate leader with a really decent salary and benefits program. And there was me. That's my example of being tied to that place where I had overlapped my identity with what I was charging. It took me a while to move past that. And I know how common it is for newer coaches to get stuck in that place. So I really hope this discussion gets you thinking and gets you reevaluating how you think of yourself as a human versus how you think of yourself as a professional. Let's just wrap this with a little bit of a reframe. I'd love it if you would consider thinking this. So instead of asking yourself, how do I charge more? Try a more honest question. Who do I need to be to feel clean and comfortable holding this as my current fee? See, not justifying, not defending, not explaining, but clean, right? That question is going to bring the work back right where it belongs, inside you and your identity, because pricing clarity follows identity clarity, not the other way around. And this might take you a little while to work through this. And just because you decide what your new fee is going to be, you're going to be working on this identity this time. And then the next time you raise your rates and the next time and the next time. This isn't an all or nothing ball game. This is an iteration game. So maybe you'd like to pause here, take a breath and ask yourself this question gently. Where may I still be asking for permission to be paid well for this work? Do you see that question? Where might I still be asking for permission to be paid well for this work? And I don't think you're asking for permission from clients. I think you're asking for permission from yourself. So just notice that. Again, no fixing or judging yourself. Just notice where you could give yourself permission to move forward. Awareness is often the first start to the shift. If you're listening to this and thinking you might like to explore what working together could look like, you're welcome to book an introductory call. This first conversation is simply a chance for us to connect. I'll ask a few questions to understand you, your goals, and what you're navigating right now, and you'll get a sense of my approach. It's not a coaching session, and there's no obligation. If I believe I can support you meaningfully, I'll suggest a follow-up call where we can talk more specifically about working together. You'll find the link to book that initial call in the show notes. If this episode helped you, subscribe to the podcast so you can continue receiving these conversations each week. Thanks so much for listening, and I'd truly appreciate it if you would share with your friends and colleagues somebody who would benefit from hearing it too. Have a great day, and I'll be back to speak to you on the next episode.